Definitely, some places you go, you have to be careful in Florida. I spent a lot of my time in the St. Petersburg area, and some of the places are really, really nice, and the other places are pretty sketchy. I remember in my first area in Clearwater, which is just north of St. Petersburg, I was out knocking on doors with my trainer, and we actually found ourselves in the middle of a drug deal. Like we we knocked on there was a duplex, and so we knocked on one door, and the people didn't answer, and so we went over to the other door, and we knocked on it, and somebody knocked back, and we were like, "What's going on here?" So we just kind of stood there for a little bit, and we saw this car drove up, and these guys got out, and one of them walked up to the door and knocked on it, and my trainer, he just started saying, if we're from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we'd love to share a message with you about Christ, and give him a card. And the guy just wasn't really paying attention. They were doing like these, I guess it was like a code. They were knocking back and forth on the door, and we were just talking to him about Jesus. And then the door opened slightly. He slunk in, and the door closed, and we knew what was going on. But yeah, so we just walked away. But we gave him a card with a picture of Jesus on it, and so we were hoping maybe that would helped his decision that he was making. But yeah, occasionally you run into things like that. It's definitely need to be careful. Another experience, drugs are pretty bad down there, especially crack. It's a big problem. We actually knew one of the dealers, the big dealers in St. Petersburg, and sometimes we'd go over to her house and we'd get to talk to her, and other times he would just wave us away, and we knew what was going on, so we would just leave him alone. But there's some areas that we're not allowed to go to after certain times. Like after 3 o'clock, you can't be in this neighborhood, or if you go to this neighborhood, you have to be with a member and you have to be in a car, because bad things do happen. Definitely lock up your bikes. I had an experience. It was kind of funny. We were doing this giant mini mission with the whole stake, and we got paired up with different teenage boys to take them out with us. So my companion was taking one kid on our bikes, and I was taking a couple kids in our car, and we were splitting up. And I remember I never tell him this, but I said, make sure you lock up the bikes today. And then I drove off, and then I came back, and he kind of had his head down a little bit and said, your bike got stolen. And apparently what they did is they went to it was like the sketchiest part of town, the middle of the like the hardcore like ghetto area, and they decided to stop by a member's house, and they were like, well, we can just leave our bikes here for a few minutes. We're just gonna say hi. And they didn't lock them up, and like a minute later, like they turn around, they're gone. So definitely lock up your bikes, especially if you have a really nice one. I also have another experience actually in Clearwater. I was on exchange with this other missionary, and we actually got our bike stuck in the middle of the ghetto overnight because his lock was too good, I guess. It was one of those like super like the U locks, like the really hardcore ones, and someone had tried to bash it with a hammer to get it off and broke the lock inside, so we couldn't get it unlocked. So we actually had to have a guy come out, and he used like 2 diamond blades before he could get it off with his grinder. But yeah, that was another funny experience. One of the areas, I don't know, I guess I know the building of churches is inspired, and I'm not sure why it was inspired to be put in this particular area, but the church was right in the middle of this horrible area, and it was actually gated, like the church, and so they had to have like a code to get in, and all the windows were barred. It was really strange, but and that's kind of like the city dangers you have. But when you get out in the country, there's other dangers, like when you're in the middle of nowhere, and some of those people out there in the swamps, you kind of question if they're, you're not sure if they're gonna invite you in, give you cookies, or if they're gonna shoot you. So I would say definitely follow the Spirit, because there's been times when I felt like we shouldn't be here because I don't know why, but I'm sure it would have been bad if we would have went. So definitely use the Spirit in guiding that. So